Hi, ladies and gents. Welcome to CEO Meets. My name's Pip Wilkins. I'm the Chief Executive at the British Franchise Association, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Hannah MacKechnie from Radfield Home Care today. Hi, Hannah. How are you doing?
Hi, Pip. Yeah, really well, thanks. How are you? Have you had a good summer?
Yep, really good. Loved the weather. It's been absolutely awesome this year, so really
Yeah,
good.
excellent. Good
So,
to hear.
Hannah, first up, the most important question. Tell us about Radfield and exactly what it is that you do.
Okay, well, Radfield Home Care, actually, the Radfield brand has been around for over 40 years now. It started life as a residential care home that my parents set up. And my brother and I grew up in that care home, living alongside the elderly residents. And then Radfield Home Care came about when our parents were actually looking at succession planning for the business. And my brother and I both wanted to get involved. But it was becoming quite clear at that point that the market sort of was shifting. People wanted to stay living at home. So we sort of pivoted the model into home care. So we launched in Shrewsbury, our first office, back in 2008. And that's really where the sort of Radfield home care story began. And then we operated our own company-owned branches for a number of years, and then more latterly over the last 5 years, we've become involved in franchising, and now we're sort of growing through the country, expanding nationwide through franchising. So that, in a nutshell, is is
So
where we came from.
amazing. So co-founder, what was the motivation then to go down the franchising route and not just stay as you were?
I think well we started off looking at expanding through sort of company-owned network, and we did that. And I think really we did look at franchising quite early on. One of our sort of big concerns with it was actually being able to control the quality from sort of further distances away.
Hmm.
Actually, I think what we found in reality, once we've gone down the franchising route, and we've brought on franchise partners, is that actually what you'll get through the franchise route is actually heavily invested, highly motivated people who are there living and breathing the brand every day in their location. So actually, I think our sort of early reservations were unfounded, and actually we've shown ourselves, if you like, that actually the franchising route is a fantastic way to expand a home care business.
So you just touched on the highly motivated individuals. What
Yeah.
is the kind of key attributes that you look for? What makes a really successful Radfield franchisee?
It's a combination of things. It's hard to put your exact qualities. You could list them all on paper, but actually, I think what we really look at is, you've got to have somebody that is a decent human to start with. That's the sort of absolute number one criteria. You want somebody that's motivated, that's ambitious for themselves,
Mhm.
who's going to work in partnership with us. That's very important. It's a long-term partnership that we're creating between us and our franchise partners, and people who fundamentally, because they're coming into the care sector, they're looking after vulnerable people. So actually, you've got to have somebody of good moral standing, and they who really want to work with that group of people, and who really want to make a difference to people's lives. So lots of different sort of attributes there, and it's a bit sort of alchemical, if you like, to try and find the right people. But when you do, you kind of know, and it feels really right.
So there are a number of different care providers in franchising. What is it that really sets you apart from the competition? What is it that you do differently to everybody else?
Sure. Well, I think our sort of history is quite unique. The fact that my brother and I, who both own and operate the business, grew up in a care setting. So we grew up in a care home, living alongside the elderly relatives. I think that lifetime of care experience, seeing it done really well. And then I went on personally and trained as a GP. And through that, I've seen lots of care provision done really badly. So I've had sort of seen both sides of the coin, really. And so I think the sort of lived experience that we've had, and our national office team, the amount of experience and across all aspects of the business that we've got within the team, it really sets us apart. And I think as well, what we're really trying to focus on is, it can be quite difficult, in honesty, to differentiate home care from other brands. you can put in place lots and lots of measures and try and make sure that you do things as well as possible. So what we're trying to do is actually look at how we can elevate the brand by focusing on very, very carefully on that interaction between our care professionals and the clients in the home. And we're looking at how we can actually support that and make really, it's about sort of enabling and giving the autonomy to our care professionals to actually go above and beyond to make a difference, to look at what that client that they're caring for, look at what maybe they've lost connection with in their lives. So what we find as people get older is they tend to lose connectivity, and that can be with relationships with family, friends, getting out and about with the community. But more fundamentally, I think it can also be with themselves. They can lose connection with who they used to be. So we're empowering our care professionals to actually try and work with our clients to reconnect them to those things that are important to them, and that's something that we call our Be There movement. So that's something that we're really focusing on to try and set us apart in the marketplace.
I love that, because they obviously had hobbies, didn't they? And it's things that they do lose touch with. So it's a really, really nice thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
I'm always super impressed. So we see your brand, through our awards programs and things, with the marketing that you put behind Radfield and the way that that's all done. Talk to us a bit about some of your initiatives and how they've worked.
Sure. We've got a great marketing team at National Office, and we're always looking at ways that we can support our franchise partners across the country. And as I've just talked about through the Be There campaign. So in support of that campaign, we've created some videos that are on our website that really trying to bring some of the lived stories that we hear about in our network. So we'll hear a care professional supporting a client in a really different and unique way. They've gone above and beyond, and some of those stories we're able to actually capture and then turn into a sort of video telling of that story. So some of those things, I think, where we're really bringing to life some of the unique and really exceptional moments that our care professionals are involved in, is, I think, some of the really lovely, heartwarming things that we're able to do through our marketing.
It's definitely one of the standout things that we see. So love it. I have a couple of final questions. So just touching on COVID, it was obviously a really tough time for your sector. What were some of the key things that you put in place to support your franchisees?
Yeah, sure. I mean, COVID was obviously it sort of swamped everyone, didn't it? It was,
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to talk about it slightly hesitantly in the past tense, but
Yes.
yeah, because it's still very much with us. But I think, I mean, in a way, we were lucky. We saw it coming, so we were very aware of we were keeping an eye very closely on what was happening over in China. So actually, we proactively set ourselves up really well by getting in early stocks of PPE, making sure our network was doing the same. So actually, we sort of started the first lockdown pretty well prepared from that sense. How we actually sort of coped with it was, we internally at National Office, we created a task force who were really responsible for communicating very daily with our network, keeping on top of all the government guidance, because that's probably one of the most challenging parts about
There's a lot of it, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, and also, working in the care sector, all the sort of PPE guidance and the shortages of specified PPE. Suddenly the government was saying, no, actually you need this type of mask, not that type of mask. But actually, can you get hold of that type of mask at short notice when the whole country are chasing it down? So yeah, so that I think trying to navigate and translate and communicate the government guidance to our franchise partners, so they didn't have to spend their time doing that, was probably one of the most valuable things that we were able to support them with.
Okay, so two final questions. I ask everybody the same ones. A top tip for someone that has a business and is considering franchising it. What would you say the key piece of advice you'd give them based on the lessons that you've learned?
I think I'll probably just sneak a couple in there, if that's all right.
Go
I think
for
the first one is financial. I think you need you need to have a really good, solid financial base to be able to franchise your business. It's not just the initial, if you work with a consultant, it's not just the initial sort of costs. It's actually being able to build your team, because as you bring franchise partners on, they expect really good quality support. So you'll certainly need to build your national office team. So you've got to be able to cash flow that. So I think that's sort of number one, is make sure that you've got enough funds available to be able to cash flow it through to the network actually being able to sustain itself from a financial perspective. And the second one, I think, is team. Make sure that you bring the right people through. That takes time, and it can take a bit of time to find the right people, but when you've got them, and the network knows as well. They really appreciate a really motivated, supportive national office team
that's absolutely aligned to your culture and your values is key, isn't it? So
yeah, completely.
Right, second question.
Okay.
Imagine that I'm going to buy a franchise. Pip Wilkins, CEO, decides to give it all up and buy a franchise. What would be your top tip to me from a research and due diligence perspective? What should I do?
Talk to lots of people, I think. Do as much research as you need to do to feel really comfortable and confident with the decision that you're making. But talk to people who, in franchising, talk to people outside of franchising, people who've had touch points with the sector. I think you can't know too much. So I think just arming yourself with lots of information, and go and talk to the franchisors that you're interested in, potentially joining their network. Just no good quality franchisor will mind answering a volume of questions in order to make sure that somebody's happy. So just keep asking, keep digging until you're really comfortable and confident, because it's a long-term commitment and can be quite a heavy financial commitment as well. So you've got to make sure you're doing the right decision for you.
Fantastic. Hannah, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really lovely talking to you.
You're welcome. You too, Pip. Take care.